Life is better when you have an awesome friend group. There, I said it. I admitted it. I admitted that I want to have friends and need more friends. So please, do you want to be my friend? Friends and your friendship circle is always a really interesting topic, especially as an adult, because there's really no clear roadmap to how you find new friends. And a lot of people really struggle with this. Loneliness is one of the biggest epidemics that a lot of men especially face, and I'm sure it also extends to a lot of ladies as well, because we are so used to just sticking with the communities and the friendships that we have during school, and maybe now you're at a point where those have kind of disappeared for whatever reason, or you've moved cities, and then how are you supposed to find new friends? Like what do you do, right? I think a lot of people probably stay in the jobs that they're working in just because like they have colleagues that they get along with, and the idea of moving a job or moving a city or moving a country. But the problem is in our new age, internet age of society, is that it's really easy to try and numb your desire to have social connections with people, because we can all be watching YouTube videos like this and I can say, oh, hey viewer, feel some sense of like community because you might feel like you know me after watching a couple of videos. But truth is, I'm never going to replace, as much as I wish I could, I'm never going to replace your desire for physical social connections, and I'm never going to fill that gap in the way that somebody physically in your town or city would do. But I also think the problem with friendships and making new friends and sustaining friends in general is that we almost have this idea that this is something that should just happen naturally. Like you just go through life, and then you see a guy, and then you start talking, and then you talk, and then you're like, oh, you're my buddy, and we just met randomly. Like there seems to be a stigma, whether like it's explicit about somebody who just says, oh, I want to make new friends, and then like as an adult, that's almost seen as a shameful thing in a way. Like you should have already figured this out. You should already have friends. Like you're struggling making friends. You're an adult. Like what the hell's wrong with you? But the truth is that making friends can be and should be a combination of using luck and putting in the effort to actually seek out potential people that you can collaborate with, whether that be through a sport that you do or a hobby that you have. Like these kind of have to be active things as an adult. And if you're just relying on luck bringing you a really cool person to hang around with, it's probably not going to happen. And it probably happened when you were younger because it kind of was lucky, like your parents just put you into a school and you happen to live on a street that had a cool dude who you could hang around with. That was just lucky. Like you just happened to find someone who you really clicked with early on. But as you get older, you also might be in a position where, you've changed so much as a person that spending time and hanging around with those people that you initially did early on just doesn't feel right anymore. Like you don't really have any close old friends that you spend a lot of time with because you just feel so different. Maybe you're like more entrepreneurial minded, or you just have a hobby or an interest, and you've changed so much as a person that whenever you hang out with those people who you used to be really close with, you just don't feel as close anymore. You still feel close because like historically, or like you have a shared history together and you have shared experience, but you don't really have like a shared goal anymore. And at that point, you can start to feel quite distant from those people. I know I've had that with my own friendship circles where, I consciously or unconsciously wanted to distance myself from people that I used to spend a lot of time with because I didn't feel like they were on the same kind of path as me and driven in certain areas of life. And only as I've gotten older, I've realized that like you can still have friends who don't quite tick all the boxes of what you desire in life, but they still like tick some of the boxes of what kind of you need to have in a friendship to feel close to somebody and to feel some sort of like commonality between them. And work-wise, I've been in situations where I've had the experience of working in an office, being around people who I pretty much all like and get along with, working together on a common kind of goal or just like on a YouTube channel, which was my situation. And then I've had a situation where that disappeared suddenly and people, went into their own little caves to work on their own stuff, like metaphorical caves being their own apartments. Yeah, then I had to basically be Billy No Mates and work on my own most of the times. And I would be totally lying if I said, oh, it's just the same. There's no difference. It's just as easy to work on my own as it is with a group of friends. It's totally not. Like, it's way more difficult. It's way harder, which is why I often I'm lucky that I work from home with my girlfriend most of the time. And when she's not here, I'm like, I need to go to a coffee shop on the times where the friction of actually doing work is quite heavy, because being in a coffee shop around people is just that extra motivator of being around people and having like, oh, they're working, I should work. But if I'm here in this apartment on my own, I can do that for a day or two maybe. But if I have that for too long, I just start to feel this itch of like, I need to be around people. I can't just be in this situation completely on my own. Like, I'm gonna elevate my productivity way more if I actually just surround myself with even just one person. Like, it doesn't have to be like 10 people or whatever, like just one person that I can feel that sense of like, they're working on something, I'm working on something, therefore it feels less lonely. And even if you find that, you know, loving relationship with your significant other, girlfriend, boyfriend, wife or husband, they're no substitute for actual friendships. I'm sure many of you have had experiences where you have a friend who finally got himself a girlfriend, yay, and then he basically just disappeared and barely put any effort into meeting other people and like hanging out and nurturing the current friendships that he already had, and especially any new friendships. Yeah, I've been guilty of this as well. It's just, and I didn't really understand why people used to do this, but it's just because initially, like, a lot of your social needs get met when you have a partner, but as like the relationship develops, you kind of realize, hopefully, that you can't just rely on that one person. And being around different types of people who, you know, you give them different energies and vibes, and they give you that as well, just makes life way more enjoyable, and your energy level is higher. I also find that if I spend time with friends, doing non-work stuff as well as work stuff, even if it's non-work stuff where we just like catch up for a coffee or whatever, I just feel so much more energized during the day to want to work and actually be productive. And because you would think that like, oh, if I have a coffee with someone for an hour or two, it's a waste of time, I need to be working on my YouTube script. Like, okay, but I genuinely feel like it's better to build up the habit where you're in a better mood when you're doing those things that can be quite tricky in terms of your motivation, if you can like stack that with the joy of spending time with someone and, you know, them encouraging you and you sharing ideas. I think also with friendships, especially if they're the right kind of friends, and also sometimes if they're also not, I mean, in the sense of like, you don't relate on that much, you can still learn so much from people. Like, I think being around other people, if they're on the same path as you or on some similar path or have some shared commonality, you just learn so much from them about their area of interest, their area of expertise, and you learn way quicker. Like, how can you expect for you to use your 24 hours in the day, 12 maybe, or 14 of you actually being awake, depending on how much you sleep and how much you stay awake? How are you going to expect that you are going to know more than them versus like you both investigate your own disciplines and skills and like all that? Even something as simple as like, oh, you want to try and find a new gym, and that person had spent all last week Googling the best gyms in your area. Instead of you wasting an hour like, oh, should I go to that gym? Should I go to that gym? You just speak to your friend who happens to have already been doing that, and you're like, oh, I want to go to a new gym. He's like, oh, well, I've done lots of research and this gym is the best one. Honestly, like, I've been to 4 other gyms. This one is the gym that you need to go to. And then why would you not like go up on his recommendation, especially if it's someone that you trust? And that's what I found. Like, you just save so much time spending time with friends who like have interests that align with yours. Obviously, the more aligned those interests are, the more you could learn. But in general, like, don't try and be a perfectionist with friends. I struggled with this a lot. I thought like, oh, I can't nurture a friendship that I don't feel like super close, or there has to be like a super connection. It's almost like this weird movie sense where you think like you see him and then you're like, you know, from that moment you're gonna be best friends, and then you like do the, yeah, we're gonna be best friends. Like, stop being too picky and perfectionistic. Like, you just need one common interest or one thing that like unites you in a way. Maybe like you just feel good being around each other because they're interested in like your cool creative lifestyle, and you're inspired by their, I don't know, like their kung fu career that they're doing. Just having the one thing of commonality is all you really need to bond in some way. And also what tends to happen that I've realized is that if that person is particularly extroverted or just socializes in general and doesn't just rely on like the coffee chats that you guys have, you meet loads of people through that one person. Maybe they'll introduce you to a friend of theirs, and then that person is actually the person you connect with more. Or maybe that person has friends and that person has friends, and like everybody is slowly connected in the social circle. And then you just meet way more people because you're essentially like outsourcing some of the friendship making with that one person who happens to know other cool people who you will also get along with. So don't be too picky with your friends, especially if you've just starting out, like trying to make new friends. If you've moved to a new city, or maybe you're wanting to try and like explore new friendship circles, don't be that picky, because oftentimes the people who you are acquaintances with, who then become like somewhat mutual friends that you want to nurture a little bit, they can lead you to the people who you are really going to deeply connect with and like have that bond that you always wanted. I know friendships require nurturing. Like you can't just half-ass this, and you know, everything that you put into it, you'll get back to some degree. For me, I struggle with this quite a lot because I think trying to initiate something like a house gathering or saying to people like, hey, I'm having a house gathering on this day, come on over. It seems to like trigger some trauma that I have from my childhood of like asking my mom if my best friend Lewis could stay over and her maybe saying yes or no. And I'm like, oh, it just triggers something in me where I'm worried about the rejection of like asking for something that I actually want to happen. And obviously it's just way easier to just sit back and let like your friends do all the initiating, but you can't just rely on other people doing the work to initiate. You have to be the person to like reach out and say, hey, how's it going? Long time no speak. Or, oh, we should do something together. Like the more you do that, the more that they're also going to try and initiate stuff as well, because they're just going to be responding to like how much effort you're putting into the relationship. So yeah, if you can be an initiator, at least try and build the skill of saying, you know, let's do a little house gathering where we all play video games together. Oh, like I'm thinking of going to this yoga class. Like you should come. Like it'll be good. I've been before. The things like that, people really appreciate that a lot, and it will motivate them to also try and like offer and add to your life with stuff that they're getting up to and things that they've learned that they can share with you and experiences that you can both have together. I want to give you some practical steps for how the f do you actually start meeting friends, because I've kind of like touched on why and convinced you this is important. I'm going to talk about how to do it and the steps that you can actually take to start making it happen. The first one is f***ing talk to people. For some of you, this might sound super scary, but people are people at the end of the day, and more times than not, people actually want to connect with you. So a really easy fix for this would be that when you go into, you know, the local coffee shop that you go to every day, don't just say, can I have a cappuccino, please? And then she says, you want it with milk? Which milk? Oat milk, thanks. Okay, bye. Like, no, like this is such a perfect example of how you can start to kind of come out of your shell a bit and test your ability to connect with someone. I'm not saying that this person at the coffee shop is going to be your best friend or you're going to invite this person to like your cool video game Mario Kart night, but it allows you to build the skill of like asking questions that come from your curiosity. And I think that's like a really easy fix, where if like that person has a cool tattoo or whatever, like these thoughts have probably crossed your mind already meeting this person or seeing this person. You're like, oh, cool tattoo. And then it crosses your mind like, oh, what does that mean? Ask them, what does that mean? Just say like, hey, what does your tattoo mean? And there's just no way in hell that they're going to be like, how dare you ask me about my tattoo? They're going to be so happy that you've asked them that question because they have a tattoo that they feel good about and they like telling people about it. It's the same with you. Like if that coffee person was like, okay, well, that's £5, please. Okay, here's the £5. Oh, by the way, you come in here quite a lot. Like what, like you seem to like always come in during the day. Like, do you not have a normal job? And then you wouldn't be like, oh, she's asking me about my job, that I have a freelance job and she's asking me about it. I don't like this. You'd be like, oh, you feel really good at this person actually has taken the initiative to want to learn a bit more about you because you go into the coffee shop every single midday when the other people have normal office jobs and they don't go to the coffee shop at the same time that you do. So little things like that, like really, really help your ability and your kind of muscle to just reach out and speak to people. I need to do it more, to be fair. I'm not going to say that I'm like a crazy extroverted guy who always reaches out to people. I'd certainly need to do it more. And I was absolutely terrible at this when I was younger. I was so introverted as a child. It might be hard to believe seeing me talk in front of the camera in the way that I do. But I was so introverted to the point where I would go into video game stores and I would be so nervous to ask the store owner like, oh, when does Final Fantasy X come out? I would literally like wait until my brother came to the store with me, my older brother. I'd say, oh, Yusuf, can you ask the guy at the shop like when the Final Fantasy X comes out? And my brother's like, oh, you ask. I'm like, I don't want to. Like I just had it in my head that like for some reason I would ask when this video game comes out, and the guy would go and like laugh at me. I don't know why. I just had a really irrational fear that I was gonna get like judged or criticized for wanting to know this knowledge, which is so stupid because he would have just told me. And then when my brother asked them, he just told them. So I don't know, it's some weird childhood thing that I had. But the point is that this is a skill that you can build no matter how like introverted you actually feel. You will constantly be surprised by how often, like 99.9% of the time, people actually feel happy that you ask them a question. I had these big realizations like incredibly often because one of my clients is dating a YouTube channel, and yeah, like filming and working for them and seeing like their clients go up to a random girl on the street to say like hi and compliment them on the way that they look. So many times you're like, this girl looks angry, she's not gonna like it. And then the guy says, oh, like, hey, I just wanted to say like you look cute. And the girl's like, oh, thank you so much, you made my day. You're like, our assumptions and thoughts about other people are often just like so wrong in a lot of different ways, which is hard because I think I thought I'm good at reading people in general, but yeah, like so many times your assumptions are absolute crap. And the only way to truly know like how a person feels about a thing is to ask them, and to really know if a person is friendly or wants to connect with you is to just try and connect with them in some way. Just ask them a thing, be curious about them. Curiosity. Something that really helps me in doing this is just thinking, what would a confident person do in this situation? This has really helped me like pretty recently, actually, just having this mindset of like, how would a confident person, or like what would the confident version of Adam do in this situation? And having that mentality and mindset, and actually like going up to a person because you're curious, because that's what the confident version of you would do, means that you can meet people who you would never meet before. And no, you're not lying, you're not pretending to be something, you're just being a version of yourself that you don't feel super comfortable with, or maybe within this particular day you're just feeling a bit down. The confident version of you doesn't exist very strongly. So just having this kind of restructure of what would the confident version of me do, or what would a confident version of me do, like actually do in this situation, that is an unbelievable momentum to reach out to people and actually start to make some connections with the people around you. Second one I would say is say yes to more stuff. Like, I really struggle with this because honestly, if I can stay at home with my girlfriend playing PS5 games most evenings, I'm pretty happy with that. Like, that sounds like a great evening to me. But there's things that you're going to be missing out on by doing that. And if you do get invites by people to go to a gig or to go to some event, try and say yes more times than you say no. I know this is hard because a lot of people say like, oh, if it's like a lot of Mark Manson, who I really like, if it's not a yes, it's a no, don't do it. And I agree with this to some degree, but I think if you're in a position where you're trying to explore being social to some degree, or you're trying to like build up this skill, it's better to be saying yes to at least some stuff. Like, don't say yes to everything. Like, you should turn down a few things here or there. I have had times where something wasn't a yes, and I just was like, oh, okay, let's try it. And then I went, and then I felt so happy that I'd gone, because I'd either met a cool person or I just generally had a good experience, like nurturing the friendships that I had. And if I'd said no to that, I would have missed out on it. So it is a tricky balancing act, because obviously if you're really busy with stuff, your deadlines are more important, because if you don't reach them, then you're gonna get fired from your job. I get it. But I think that you should try and also say yes to situations and events where your initial desire is to not go because you just want to be comfortable and stay at home with your girlfriend or whatever and chill. But actually going would be a form of nurturing the friend who actually reached out and said, hey, I'm going to this comedy event. Like, do you want to come? And you saying yes means you'll probably have a good time with them if you already like them as a person, and you'll be nurturing the friendship, and like it will make them feel good because they found this event, they wanted to go, and then they invited you of all people to join them. So yeah, like just say yes to more things. If you don't actually have a friend directly inviting you, like check on Facebook for events that might interest you, whether that be like music stuff or sports stuff or whatever it might be, because there's lots of events where people like have a common interest and come together. I'm not saying that you're always going to meet cool people there. And like, I've been to things like meditation, like events and stuff when I was living in Manchester. And yeah, I didn't meet anyone there that I really connected with, honestly, but you tried. I got to meditate, so it's not like I lost anything. Like, just putting yourself in situations where you even go to an event or a space that you normally wouldn't do is all training, is all muscle memory to know that like this thing is not so scary, and it's only going to be a matter of time that you actually say yes to an event of some kind where you can then implement the other skills that you've learned, which is like following your curiosity, reaching out to people, complimenting on that person's tattoo or whatever. And you never know, that person could be your new best BFF. And the third and final point, which even though this is about how to meet friends, you need to know how to sustain friends, like nurture the friends that you already have. No matter how big or small, no matter how deep or shallow these connections that you have, nurturing the current friends that you have is going to be like the stepping stone that makes everything easier for you to even go about making new friends. And even if you have a friend who is a bit of a degenerate and is just lacking in a lot of life experiences and is very flaky and whatever, everybody is going to be able to teach you everything. Like, the friends who have really terrible personality traits will teach you why you shouldn't be like that, or why you shouldn't develop that trait, or why a person who like cuts off all their friends for whatever reason, like, and is very flaky and is very like up and down, like you can still be friends with someone like that. It might not feel nice, and hopefully you've developed a connection with them to sometimes call them out on their bad behavior, and they'll hopefully respect you for that. But being able to like learn from people's mistakes, learn from people's personalities, and know and more surely understand yours, and to like question your own personality of like why am I not like that? Why do I not act like this? But then I have these other bad personalities that other person doesn't have, and he has good personality traits that I want to have. All of this helps you as a person. It just makes life more interesting as well if you have some weirdo friends who like have odd quirks about them. At least that's what I find. It's like, oh, I knew this one guy who had this weird like thing where he'd always, definitely were people I've met that have odd quirks about them that I have hilarious stories about them now. And maybe I'm not like deep friends with them now or hang out with them as much, but they certainly made my life at one time very interesting, and gave me stories that I'm going to remember for a long time. And ultimately with friends, not to get a bit dark here, but if you look at all the regrets of the people that are like on their deathbed or towards the end of their life, a lot of them have regrets that they let their friendships go. They didn't put enough time into friends because they were working too much, etc. There's a reason for this. We all need social connection. We all need love, and love can exist from friends to friends, siblings to siblings, your partners. It's all connected. Like just spending time with other humans, sharing experiences with other people, all these things just make life way easier to live in times when you feel crap, and in times when you feel great and you can make another person feel like crap. That's what life's all about. There's no point becoming a rich millionaire and then being in your house all alone. Yeah, it probably makes crying a little bit easier that you have a Ferrari to drop your tears onto the nice $100,000 leather, but some of the happiest people are the ones that don't have as much money and they have an awesome friendship circle. You can totally have both. I'm not saying therefore being rich is bad, because that's no, like there's nothing wrong with being rich, but no matter where you're at in life, no matter how much money, no matter how like where you're at in life, you need friends. Like it's a part of being a human. It's a part of being a normal, healthy person. If it's something that you're lacking in your life right now, or maybe you have friends but you just haven't been putting as much effort to like nurture or reach out or initiate stuff, start doing it. Just do it for a month. Just do it for a month. See how you feel. If for whatever reason it just feels weird and it makes your life worse, then you can stop. But honestly, just give it a try for a month. Be an initiator, reach out, plan a social gathering, plan a house gathering, all these things. It'll just make your everyday life better, and you can be way more creative, way more productive, and generally in a better mood and happier in your day-to-day life. You should definitely check out this video here where I help you with breaking your social media addiction with 7 pretty easy steps that you can follow that will make a pretty big difference to how much you're holding your phone and scrolling away, wasting time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.